Hello and welcome to our first look exploring session of this play called The Travels of the Three English Brothers, Sir Thomas Shirley, Sir Anthony Shirley, and Master Robert Shirley, as is now played, well, now being 1600 something, by Her Majesty's servants. And it was printed at London for John Wright and was to be sold at his shop near Christchurch Gate in 1607. According to Wikipedia, because I'm totally, my research skills are so great. This was written by John Day, George Wilkins, and William Rowley. And it's, there is a whole section on Wikipedia if you really want to go into the details of what it's about and that kind of thing. Basically, apparently, this is based on actual people. It's like sort of true adventure, if you want to go for that. But personally, I believe this is like their version of the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, except sort of heaped into one play. And sort of, I mean, I don't know how racist it gets because you will see that we have a few characters called Turks, we have Christians, we have, well, tomorrow we have, tomorrow being the next session, we have Jews as well, so that will be fun. All trigger warnings apply.
All trigger warnings apply, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So reading with this play with me, we have reading Sir Anthony, a niece of, I believe, the niece to the Sophy, and the servant is
Briony Sparrow, actor in Lincolnshire.
Not a pirate, but related. I hope. I mean, that would be pretty awesome. Anyway, reading Robert, not our Robert, Messenger, Pope, Captain, Turk 2, and some other Turks who turned up in this play.
Hello, I'm Lynn Freitas. I'm a teacher. I live in the Northwestern United States.
And reading Governor, Calymath, Bassa, Sir Thomas, and a Christian who turns up.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author based in the southeast of England.
And last but not least, reading the prologue, which obviously is not last. Chorus, Halybeck, the Turk, just the Turk. Boy, Gunner, and Turk 1 and 3 we have.
Alan, based in Suffolk, and surely I'm getting confused.
Yeah, same here. And I'm your host, Eric Karoulla, and I'm reading pretty much everything else, which is the Sophy, Dalibra, who's basically a sort of assistant / maid to the niece, Lord, Sailor, and the Persian, and pretty much all the stage directions, because we don't have enough of things to read. Yeah, so without further ado, the prologue enters, attired like fame.
The tranquil silence of a propitious hour, charm your attentions in a gentle spell, whilst our endeavours get a vocal tongue to fill the pleasing rondure of your ears. Our scene is mantled in the robe of truth, yet we must crave, by law of poesy, to give our history an ornament, but equaling this definition thus: who gives a fowl unto his cook to dress, likewise expects to have a fowl again. Though in the cook's laborious workmanship, much may be diminished, somewhat added, the loss of feathers and the gain of sauce. Yet in the back surrender of this dish, it is and may be truly called the same. Such are our acts. Should our tedious muse pace the particulars of our travellers, 5 days would break the limits of our scenes. But to express the shadows, therefore we, leaving the feathers and some needless stuff, present you with the fairest of our feast, clothing our truth within an argument, fitting the stage and your attention, yet not so hid that she may appear to be herself, even truth, now your assists, to help the entrance of our history. First, see a father parting with his sons, then, in a moment, on the full sails of thought, we will divide them many 100 leagues. Our scene lies speechless, active, but yet dumb, till your expressing thoughts give it a tongue.
Enter Sir Thomas Shirley, his 3 sons, Sir Thomas, Sir Anthony, and Master Robert. Sir Thomas goes back with his father, and the others take their leaves, then exit.
Imagine now the gentle breath of heaven hath on the liquid highway of the waves conveyed him many thousand leagues from us. Think, you have seen him sail by many lands, and now at last arrived in Persia, within the confines of the great Sophy. Think, you have heard his courteous salute, speak in a peal of shot, the like till now ne'er heard at Caspin, which town's governor doth kindly entertain our English knight. With him, expect him first, the rest observe. If foreign strangers to him be so kind, we hope his native country we shall find more courteous to your just censures then. We offer up their travels and our pen.
And exit the prologue. Okay, since we're here, any thoughts before we actually launch into the actual plot of the play? I'm not entirely sure I fully understood what the prologue was on about, aside from we are going far, far away to a place beyond your imagination. Yeah, I don't know. Alan.
Mobiles off.
Yeah, pretty much. But then, like, we've got that thing of like, enter Sir Thomas Shirley, his three sons, and so on and so forth, which seems like a dumb show, but it's not actually really doing anything. I don't know. Any Lynn, any thoughts?
No.
Okay, cool. Yeah, also it's sort of introduced by Fame, who we all know is dressed very fancy always. I do like sort of phrases like the loss of feathers and the gain of sauce. You can tell that a lot of sort of what's called attention has been paid to the language of this, sort of, even if to us it just seems like something that goes a bit over our heads. At least mine. I don't know about you guys. Anyway, moving on. Scene 1. Enter the governor of Caspin, Sir Anthony, Robert, and others.
Sir, yet your entertain hath been but weak, but now assure ye, it shall be strengthened. A prince's absence clothes his public weal in mourning garments. Now our widowhood in a conquering return shall be made good. This day my royal master, the Persian Sophy, accompanied with a glorious tribute which 40,000 Turkish lives have paid, is hitherwards in march, to whom I have delivered your arrival here in Persia. Your state, your habit, your fair demeanour, and so well as my weak oratory could recite, spoke of those worths I have observed in you.
Sir, nothing I fear so much, least that the merit you have laid on me should not go even with your report.
It will, yet, if I may, I'll thus far counsel you. It is the Sophy's high will and pleasure that you be seated here in the marketplace, to view the manner of his victories, which would you greet with your high tongues of war, whose thunder ne'er was heard in Persia, till you gave voice to them at Caspin first. In what his kingdom best can furnish ye, it is his pleasure and command you want not.
It was my purpose so to salute him, brother. Pray, ye see our directions falter not. See all in order as we did determine.
I shall, sir.
Exit Robert.
With such a train as many casualties, a traveller's mishaps, have left with me, I'll greet his highness in the best I may.
Enter from wars with drums and colors. The Sophy, Kushan, Halybeck, Calymath with soldiers. The Sophy gives Sir Anthony his hand as he offers to stoop to his foot. Christian, or howsoever courteous thou seemest, we bid thee welcome in unused phrase. No gentle stranger greets our continent, but our arms fold him in a soft embrace. Yet much must his gratulation first be paid upon our foot. You stoop but to our hand. This for your followers, welcome, welcome. And Robert and the rest kiss his foot. Our governor of Caspin, see these strangers placed. Bid your care and charge, that since they have met their welcome first in weather-beaten steel, will show the manner of our Persian wars, our music and our conquests. Divide ye. The one half are Persians, the rest are Turks. Strike! A conqueror that still retains his name to tell his conquests is not pride, but fame. And a battle is presented. Excursion, the one half drive out the other, then enter with heads on their swords. These are our victories, to see those tongues that lately threw defiance in our teeth, quite put to silence in their caves of earth. Then are we sure our enemy is dead, when from the body we divide the head. How likes the Christian of our Persian wars?
As themselves deserve renown, Sophy, your wars are manly, stout, and honourable. Your arms have no employment for a coward who dares not charge his courage in the field. In hardy strokes against his opposed foe may be your subject, not your soldier. Your grace in this hath done me too much honour, which would you license me but in part to pay, with sight of such wars as Christians use, so far as my small retinue will serve. I'll shadow forth my country's hardiment. Think it a picture which may seem as great as the substantial self, when laid unto it. The compass of the hand would cover it. Your favour, and 'tis done, so that your eyes will deign to grace our seeming victories.
You have prevented us in proffering it. We had requested else, ourself will sit and so justly censure of your state in field, that if yours best deserve, then ours shall yield. And exit Sir Anthony, Robert, and the rest. What powers do wrap me in amazement thus? Methinks this Christian's more than mortal. Sure, he conceals himself within my thoughts. Never was man so deeply registered, but God or Christian or whate'er he be. I wish to be no other but as he.
Sophy dotes upon this fella already.
Most devoutly. We shall have his statue erected in our temple shortly.
I'll ne'er pray again if it be.
Hark, they come. We'll note how the Sophy will grace them.
Shall not please me, be it ne'er so good.
A Christian battle shown between the two brothers. Robert driven out, then enters Sir Anthony and the rest with the other part prisoners. Next, Mortis, Ali, and those deities to whom we Persians pay devotion, we do adore thee. But your wars are royal, so joined with music that even death itself would seem a dream. Your instruments dissolve a body into spirit, but to hear their cheerful clamors and those your engines, we cannot give their proper character. Those loud tongues that spit their spleen in fire, drowning the groans of your then dying friends, and with the smoke, hiding the gasp of life that you ne'er think of aught but victory, till all be won. We cannot praise it well. But what means those in bondage so?
These are our prisoners.
Why do they live?
In this I show the nature of our wars. It is our clemency in victory, to shed no blood upon a yielding foe. Sometimes we buy our friend's life with our foes, sometimes for gold, and that hardens valour. When he that wins the honour gets the spoil, sometime for torment we give weary life. Our foes are such that they had rather die than to have life in our captivity.
We never heard of honour till now.
Yet have we engines of more force than these, when our ore-heated bloods would massacre. We can lay cities level with the pavement, bandy up towers and turrets in the air, and on the seas o'erwhelm an argosy. These are those warriors.
And chambers go off.
Damn it thunders!
Sure, this is a god.
Sure, 'tis a devil, and I'm tormented to see him graced thus.
First, teach me how to call thee ere I speak. I more and more doubt thy mortality. Those tongues do imitate the voice of heaven when the gods speak in thunder. Your honors and your qualities of war more than humane, if thou hast godhead and disguises art come to teach us unknown rudiments of war. Tell us thy precepts, and we'll adore thee.
Oh, let your princely thoughts descend so low, as my being's worth, think me as I am. No stranger are the deeds I show to you than yours to me. My country's far remote, an island but a handful to the world, yet fruitful as the meads of paradise, defenced with streams such as from Eden run, each port and entrance kept with such a guard as those you last heard speak. There lives a princess, royal as yourself, whose subject I am, as these are to you.
Are we? Comparisons?
So long as war attempted our decay, so ill repaid, we so by heaven preserved, that war no more dares look upon our land. All princes league with us, which causeth us, that want to write our honours down in blood, cold and unactive to seek for employment. Hither am I come, renowned Persian. My force and power is yours. Say but the word, so against Christians I may draw no sword.
With arms of love and adoration, I entertain thee, worthy Christian, and think me happier in thy embrace than if the god of battles fall for me. Thou shalt be general against the Turks.
He'll make him his heir next.
I'll lose me head first.
A camp of equal spirits to thyself will turn all Turkey into Persia. Let me feast upon thy tongue. I delight to hear thee speak.
I'll interrupt ye. Ye Persian gods look on. The Sophy will profane your deities and make an idol of a fugitive. My liege.
You describe wonders.
Minds me not. My liege.
You trouble us, and what's the difference twixt us and you?
None but the greatest, mighty Persian. All that makes up this earthly edifice, by which we are called men, is all alike. Each may be the other's anatomy. Our nerves, our arteries, our pipes of life, the motives of our senses all do move as of one axle-tree. Our shapes alike, one workman made us all, and all offend that maker, all taste of interdicted sin, only art in a peculiar change. Each country shapes as she best can please them, but that's not all. Our inward offices are most at jar. Would they were not, great prince, your favour here, if I outstrip my bonds, we live and die, suffer calamities, are underlings to sickness, fire, famine, sword. We all are punished by the same hand and rod. Our sins are all alike. Why not our God?
Enter a messenger.
Sorry. My liege.
What makes these slaves so bold to trouble me? Well, sir, now you're sweating the message.
The Turks have gathered power.
So have we.
Those that retired from your last victory have met fresh supply and all turn head upon your confines.
So have we fresh supply. We'll meet halfway. Welcome again, brave Englishman. Our best employment in this war is thine. For thy sake do I love all Christians. We give thee liberty of conscience. Walk in our hand, thou hast possessed our heart. Away for wars, we must cut short our feasts, lest that our foes prove our unwelcome guests. And they all exit. Any thoughts? I'm sure thoughts abound about the scene. We're kind of dropped in the middle of the action, aren't we? Kind of. Yeah. I thought they were prisoners at the beginning, but apparently not. So yeah. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I mean, it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? So
Totally.
the Turks are sort of the Ottoman Turks, I assume, are sort of they're having their imperial way with this region, and Persians are resisting them and enlist the help of Europeans. That's understandable so far, so realpolitik, but like all the sucking up that they do is really weird. It's weird that the English would be portrayed as kissing the Sophie's foot.
Alan.
I think we're yet again in an area where it's parts foreign. They do things different there.
Yeah.
And any connection with real history or geography is entirely coincidental. It ought to start in another galaxy far, far away.
Briony.
Yeah, but to be fair to what Lynn's saying, though, I get that. Like, normally the English in this, even by ourselves, are not portrayed as this kind of diplomatic to foreign emissaries, are we? You know what I mean? The whole foot kissing thing. Normally we go in and we'd say, we're English, we're bloody brilliant, mate. We'll beat the pants off anyone you want us to. We're loads better than you. Whereas actually, it has been they both had brown noses, as far as I could tell in that scene.
Yeah, but I think also the point is because like they haven't started with like, you must convert, you must give away your faith or something, or I will kill you because you're a Christian kind of thing. They started from the viewpoint of like, you're a mercenary, you can help us. I think so. I kind of assumed it was not that at the beginning, but maybe more context is required in terms of the politics. I'm not entirely sure. Lynn, sorry.
Yeah, another thing that just sort of got my attention was that Sir Anthony talks about, one workman made us all. There is only one God, and we're all subject to sin. And he seems to be saying you and Persians who are Muslim and we Christians worship the same God. We recognize this. We're all monotheists. We're all sons of Abraham, and many Europeans did not understand that in this period. That Muslims were pagans and they were idol worshippers, which they are totally not. But this is actually an unusually correct, or we would say, understanding of the relationship between Islam and Christianity. So that's a little surprising. Like, we worship the same God. Most people in Europe didn't realize that.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if this is like, sort of like when a play begins with a wedding and it all goes wrong. I don't know. Elizabeth. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of like a refreshing return to the Turkish plays, because there was a season where we had one a week for a while, and I was just thinking, okay, I'm ready for the bloodshed to begin, because in the Turkish plays, it's like always someone gets strangled, someone gets their head chopped off, and then when the characters come on stage with their heads on the swords, I thought, okay, that's really funny. It's usually quite grim, but in this one, it's kind of hilarious. And I like the politics. I like how political it is and how it's an allegory for what's going on in England. And how, like, I feel like it's allegorical in nature. But yeah, about the foreigners being maybe the Europeans, I'm not sure. And the British being the Christians. And I like the way that we kind of are getting immersed in the politics immediately. The play doesn't give us like a moment to rest. We kind of get immersed in the politics straight away. And I like the sucking up. Some of the readers were saying that like the sucking up is a bit like, but I thought it was funny. I thought actually for a Turkish play, it's kind of started off quite humorous, and I'm ready for the bloodshed to begin.
You just want all the blood, the gore, you thrive on the conflict.
You're gonna have fun when we get to Jacobean tragedy. You're just gonna love it.
Yeah. I think also it's interesting because they start off with sort of this exhibition of like how they fight, as far as I can tell, which is kind of like, hey, let's share our knowledge, which is quite interesting. Because you start off with the sort of Persian battle. I can't remember what the description is, but it's definitely a battle presented. One writes out the other, then enter with heads on the swords, and then the second one is like a Christian battle shown between the two brothers, which I like. clearly there was a different way of doing things in terms of military strategy. And also because there is that thing about it's called mercy, offering mercy sort of to prisoners of war. Alan, yeah.
I think actually the Christian version has got more to do with early capitalism. You know, let's take prisoners and get as much money as we can.
Yeah, probably. But also there was that thing of like, I do like how it does go into the sort of explanation of, well, we trade them for our own, like, people who have been captured, people who've been sort of, there are many uses to this situation. And then we get sort of the messenger, of course, coming in. The Turks have gathered power, which leads us probably into the next scene, I'm guessing. Any other thoughts on this scene before we move on? Okay. Scene 2. Enter the great Turk with followers and a Bassa.
Stand. Our fury swells so high, we cannot march a foot ere it break forth. O thou inconstant fate, whose deadly wings lifts thee up like falcons up to fall on kings, and greater than on kings, for it strikes us, to whom kings kneel, our potent power, whom judgment holds to be invincible. Leave but a handful of our enemies, the Sophy and his troops are forced to fly, not daring to resist, fearing to die.
Yet let the son of Ottoman take strength, call up his forces and join war again.
Soft march.
Join war again, we may to show our will, but prove like those resist to their own ill. Hark, Bassa, now their voice of coming on speaks like the tongue of heaven, threatening destruction to mankind when it pleases.
Yet let your blood be like the ocean troubled with the wind. Rise till it dim the stars, such your high mind.
It shall. We will hold calm no longer. Swell sea of fury, till these Persians, standing like trees upon our circling banks, be o'erflown. Men, wrath and blood, meet like earth, fire and air, that's not withstood.
Enter the Sophy, Sir Anthony Shirley, Kushan Halybeck, Robert Shirley, and the Calymath in arms. We thus confront thee.
We thus answer thee.
Know thou that callest thyself a god on earth, and wouldst have nations stoop to thee as men to heaven. We are thus armed, aye, and for this defense, twixt God and man to approve a difference.
Know thou whose power is but a walk to mine. If earth have good from heaven, hell power by sinners. If death be due to men, be bliss to angels. This sun at Christians' west shall not set true. Before thy life meet death, hell have her due.
Endure him not, great emperor.
Patience. Know thou again, in this war I'm knit with Christians and with subjects, whose warlike arms like steel rebates not, but like fire shall fly to burn thee down, whose pride's above the sky.
Thy Christians I condemn like to their God.
Oh, they shall have graves like thee dishonoured, unfit for heaven or earth, this we prepare. Betwixt them both we'll seat you in the air. Turk, infidel, thou that talk'st of angels, the chroniclers of heaven who in their register record thee living as a soul for hell. By him that died for me, my pains shall sweat, these poets to open, but I will pay this debt. I'll vex them with my sword, and being panged with earthly torments, send them to be damned.
Wilt, Christian?
If I live, I will, as sure as day doth progress toward night. In death of pagans all Christ's sons delight, and I am one of them.
Alarum then!
To fight with devils, loathed of virtuous men.
Alarum! Retreat, then enter Sir Anthony, with his brother Robert having taken the Bassa prisoner.
Our patron and the great Sophy hath the worst, yet I have ta'en this Bassa from the Turks. Stir not, thou son of Ismail, or thou diest. Young Robin and my brother thou as yet Thou'rt but a novice in this school of death, and scarcely read in martial discipline, as thou hast a great spirit, or wouldst show that thou art sprung from aged Shirley's loins. Prove it now. Keep this prisoner for me. Loose rather life than leave him. If he scape, 'tis not by cowardice, but by mishap.
And if I do not, from all our ancestors' most worthy roll be my name blotted, and from heaven my soul.
I thank thee by my troth, I'll to the battle, to save the Sophy pressed with multitudes, and rescue him or die, sure without doubt. Our lives are lighted tapers that must out.
And
Come, Turk. Oh, sorry. Come, Turk, I am made your jailer, and in these chains to which thou art bondman, who dares fetch thee out? I could have wished myself in thick of danger, when men drop down from graves like rain from heaven, but that my brother counselled otherwise, who is my schoolmaster in these designs. He sweats for honor like a Christian against Christ's foes, leaving me here to keep thee prisoner, purchased of his sword. And come thy father, that's the devil Turk, to be thy rescue, though he fight in fire. Rather than lose thee by the King of Stars, I'll part with life, making this a pile of scars.
Enter Halybeck.
Resign thy prisoner, youthful Englishman. His life, thy victory is due to us by the custom of our nation.
Is it so, my lord?
It is. Let it suffice thee that I say it is. 'Tis grace enough that thou hast made him captive. His head shall be the honour of our sword, and thus I cease on it.
You may, my lord.
Thou shalt have soldiers' pay, good words for deeds, not have the honour to present his head. That trophy's due to Cushion Halybeck.
Then Cushion Halybeck must have this prisoner.
I must. I will. Who dare deny me?
And not I. Surely they're not to deny a Persian.
Bassa,
What sayest thou, Halybeck?
seest thou this blade?
I do, but fear it not. Custom of tyranny betwixt our nations have made me not so much amazed of thee, as by a stranger which did conquer me.
This steel shall blaze itself within thy blood, and blunt his keen edge with thy Turkish bones. This point shall tilt itself within thy skull, and bear it, as birds fly twixt us and heaven, and as thy blood shall stream along this blade, I'll laugh and say for this, our foes were made.
Will the great Haly be so tyrannous?
What boots it thee to ask for? Fit to know.
He was my prisoner, I had charge of him.
But now my prisoner, who e'er conquered him, whose life shall pay his ransom, and his grave shall be in the best of fowls, as fits a slave.
'Twere good I see it not then.
Huh.
So,
How?
thus, 'twere good I see it not then. These hands were made his keeper by my brother, whose sword subdued him, gave him prisoner to me.
To thee?
To me, Persian, to me.
Thus eagle's wings shake off a buzzing fly. Pray, Turk, let thy heart sigh and thine eyes weep, that thus they go to their eternal sleep.
Thou art better go down quick unto thy grave than touch him, better abuse thy parents, be thine own murderer, let thine own blood out, and seal therewith thine own damnation. Better do all may tumble thee to hell than wrong him.
How, Christian?
Thus, pagan, he's my prisoner, and here's the key that locks him in these chains. Rescue, release, or hurt him if thou darest.
Dare.
Dare. Stare thine eyeballs out, I dare thee to it, or let thy hand wrong but a hair on his head, this hand meets out thy grave where thou dost tread.
Your will shall be our master. We'll obey you, sir.
Your sword's not tilted then within his skull,
Our nation's custom shall be awed by you.
nor born as birds do fly twixt us and heaven.
We will become your slaves and kneel to you.
He's not your prisoner then, whoever conquered him.
We'll be your dogs and fawn and curse our fate. When upstarts nobles brave, wretched's the state.
But 'tis more woe in realms when men's heart deserts are spurned or stolen than worn in cowards' hearts.
Yet English Christian, this be sure I'll keep. The sun's heat's waking when 'tis thought asleep.
A flourish entered the Sophy, Sir Anthony, and Calymath, who I thought was in the scene, but apparently he's not in the scene. Thy valor hath commanded us today, brave Englishman, we thank thee, and by a peace concluded, Bassa, we ransomless return thee to thy master. His valor that subdued thee will reward with favor and with bounty. And now to council, where we'll determine of your motion, made of a league twixt us and Christendom.
League with Christendom?
He hath advised him to it. Have patience, brother.
In the eye of heaven, we swear without offense. We'll hear what instances you can produce, how such a league may be advantage to us. Sit, to hear and speak as free without control, 'tis we give liberty. Concerning then our peace with Christian princes.
To join with them, great emperor, you shall be a captain for the highest, and in your war have angels' hands to guard and fight for you. Religious men shall wear their bended knees, even to the bone, in ceaseless prayers for you, to whose continual kneelings, tears and sighs, heaven's ears be never shut, but do receive their soul's devotion, makes the clouds to clear, and thus dispatcheth each petitioner. Who fights for us, I'll be their comforter. White-headed age, then, with their hearts like youth, go boldly to the field, infants at suck, cry as they thought it long ere they were men. Then Christian princes join their hands with yours, and sweep their several nations to a heap, with one desire to number out their men, knowing who fight for heaven, each soldier's 10, and every hand is free in shedding blood, since 'tis to wash the evil from the good.
What profit may this war accrue to us?
Honour to your name, bliss to your soul.
Dishonour under both, my sovereign. Shall you, whose empire for these 1,000 years have given their adoration to the sun, the silver moon, and those her countless eyes, that like so many servants wait on her, forsake those lights, perpetually abide, and kneel to one that lived a man and died?
Or shall our sacred sovereign forget you means by which his ancestor did rise and had the name of Persian emperors?
What can this English Christians say that they receive of gift, of comfort, riches, or of life unto the deity that he adores, that we enjoy not from that glorious lamp?
Enough to make a pagan, if a man of understanding soul turn Christian.
Our God gives us this light by which we see.
And our God made that light by which you see. Then who can this deny, if not a Turk? The maker still is better than his work.
What fruit, what food, what good to men doth flow, but by our gods created and doth grow?
I grant the sun, a vegetative soul, gives to all fruits of the earth, herbs, plants, and trees. And yet, but as a servant swayed by him, made men like angels, and controlleth sin.
Our King of Day and our fair Queen of Nights walk over us with their perpetual lights, to see we should not want, and to defend us. Her reign with dews doth all our fruits adorn, which in his rise are offered to his throne. He warms, she waters, and to them as dew, our needs we give, all other gods eschew.
Then all your lives are but to meet a death, that keeps you dying and yet never dead. And he that speaks in thunder, and whose brow is now contract to hear his name denied, hath vengeance in his hand to strike you down. Yet with a smile he doth wipe off his frown, and spares in hope, yet he stores up his doom, that plagues heaped up fall weightiest when they come. You then that scourge my Saviour with your words, my sword hath no assistance for, nor this arm a growing strength to bear in your defence. Great Emperor, for your favours here's a friend, should do you manly service in your wars. Did not so just a cause compel me hence? Now back I go, upholden with this good. In my God's cause I have shed some pagan's blood.
Stay, worthy Englishman and worthy Christian. We cannot lose a mould of such worth. What is the end thy suit would have of us?
That you by embassy make league with Christendom, and all the neighbour princes bordering here, and crave their general aid against the Turk, whose grants no doubt of, so shall your grace enlarge your empire living, and being gone, be called the champion for the holiest one. These arms shall do you credit, and if I miscarry, then 'tis happy so to die.
Thy counsel we accept and do applaud it. Advise us then, ye friends of Persia, who's fittest in our power to undertake a business of so great import as this?
Who better than the counsellor, my lord, being both a Christian and whom if men envied could not but commend, and him will now prefer as you advise, and grace him forth such an ambassador as never went from Persian emperor.
Yet were it requisite, my noble lord, some man of worth were joined along with him, 'twould give more countenance to his designs.
Good, that's the way to choke him.
So shall your business soonest take effect. Of course we heard he had in chief respect.
Thy counsel we accept and order thee as the first friend to bear him company. Late surely knight, now lord ambassador, chief in commission with Duke Halybeck, to make a league twixt us and Christendom for furtherance of sharp war against the Turk. I'll send thee forth as rich ever went, the proudest Trojan to Grecian's tent. Call thy best eloquence unto thy tongue, that may prevail with princes. If thou speed, the Christians be the honor, while Turks bleed.
My utterance is too short for fitting thanks.
And to approve will not forget the absent. Call near the brother of the ambassador. And enter Robert again. Thy place of general given thee in our wars, from thee we take thus of, and here bestow.
How these honours make me hate these Christians.
Poison finds time to burst, and so shall ours.
Though young, I have seen thee valiant, still deserve, and still be honored. Then this charge forget not, that in thy battles thou preserve no foe unto our nation, or for love or wealth. So prove victorious, while within our eye. Thyself art gracious, dares to seat thee high.
If to spend blood make me honourable, I will be thrifty, yet a prodigal.
Enough. Let me. So let us part. My parting only this. To my dearest mistress I give this jewel. Say that to leave her here I go from hence, like one that's banished, and for no offence.
I'll find fit time to tell your griefs to her.
That in my business I will faithful be. I leave my brother as a pledge for me.
You straight shall be dispatched to levy forces. You, as befits, be furnished on your way. But first in full cups will every other greet, that at next meeting we may prosperous meet. And they all exit. I am so confused. Well, not confused, but like sort of. I'm curious about this scene, but I have sort of, this scene is doing so many things, and it's kind of like the Sophy is going, yes, I love the way you speak and the way you act, but he doesn't actually let Sir Auntie speak or act very much, does he? Yeah, Briony.
Yeah, I just thought that argument was so well written, especially the bit, who was it? It was sort of like the more important people per se were talking in these long fancy paragraphs to each other, but then there was just this argument between Halybeck and whoever it was, can't find it, Robert. Halybeck and Robert, that little back and forth I thought was just lovely and very in contrast to these longer speeches of, willy waving pretentiousness.
Yeah, it's quite sorry, Lynn. Yeah, jump in.
Yeah, that exchange between Halybeck and Robert at the beginning of the scene would really need some. Yeah, I think the two actors really need to work through that because they seem to be saying the opposite of what they mean a lot of the time. Like, oh, yes, you're really great. Oh, I guess I'll give my prisoner to you. And he's saying, no, he's my prisoner. You're not. Yeah, I had a really hard time figuring out what was actually going on in that movement. And the other thing that became clear in this scene is I was wrong when I said that Sir Anthony seems to understand that both Islam and Christianity are Abrahamic monotheistic religions, because in this scene, the Persians' religion is portrayed as pagan, polytheist, sun worshippers. No, even before the rise of Islam, Persia was largely Zoroastrian, which is theistic and not really animistic or pagan. So yeah, the people who wrote this play absolutely know nothing about the faith traditions of this region, like nothing. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether there's any sense in looking for accuracy, but then it's interesting to note the differences, like with other plays that we've done, where it's like sort of you're a pagan, die, whereas now it's kind of like you're a pagan, maybe we can work together to kill other pagans, not Christians. But I do like how they all have their sort of, although they're being really polite to each other and stuff, at least, the Sophy and Sir Anthony and so on, they do seem to have like their own motives. Like sort of Sir Anthony seems to want to convert everybody to Christianity, whereas, the Calymath and Halybeck sort of go, yeah, no way, we'd rather die. Whereas the Sophy's like, of course, we shall consider it and, whatever. But then you don't really know if he actually means it or not, if it's kind of just a diplomatic thing, sort of like if you've watched the series Vikings, where you've got like sort of Vikings being baptized sort of to prove that they're sort of willing to go, the full 10 yards or something, whatever, to prove that, they're on that side anyway. But yeah, there are very interesting things. And then Halybeck jumps in with that part about the jewel. I don't really know if that's part of the action or if he's just setting something up for later. Any thoughts? I feel like I'm talking a lot. No. It was quite a long scene, to be fair, and there was a lot more talking than fighting, which is quite Alan and Elizabeth.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you've got is a group of people who are used to thinking with their fists or their swords, trying to do semi-advanced thought, not doing very well at it.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. But also kind of there is this thing of like, oh, we're allies now, you've resolved everything, it's fine. There will not be any killing. Although I do like how Sir Anthony leaves his brother as a pledge. That can't possibly go wrong. Yeah. Elizabeth, sorry. You look like you wanted to say something.
Just thinking about like Briony mentioned not this session, but in the past about willy waving. And I just feel like this play is just saturated with that. I feel like it's so hyper masculine so far, and I was like, there needs to be some female characters to kind of balance this out, because it's just so hyper masculine. It's all about war and it's all about the politics and the intrigue. And I was just thinking to myself, if a female character in this, or a few, would really help balance this out.
Well, we're going to meet them in the next scene. Brian.
Yeah, I'm going to say this, and obviously in the back of my mind, I'm presuming that in the next scene there's going to be some horrendousness to completely cancel out what I'm about to say. But so far, especially for a play containing Turks and Persians, this has been very unproblematic comparatively. We haven't had any flaming misogyny just yet. We haven't had any really overt racism just yet, and these Turkish plays are usually peppered with that stuff. So fingers crossed that I haven't just jinxed it. But
yeah, I've been trying to decide if it's racist or not, because like it's kind of, there are, you've got the English who are obviously amazing at everything and breathing, and even breathing is amazing for them. Whereas, and then you've got like the Sophy and the Persians, and the Turks were kind of like sort of like, it seems to be predisposed towards certain groups, but not like overtly. It's more interested in the politics. I don't know. Thus far, I'm not entirely sure. Any other thoughts before we launch into the next scene, which, as Briony said, might go horribly wrong? I don't know. Okay, in that vein, scene 3. Enter the Sophie's niece and her maid Dalibra, and the boy later on, I think.
Dalibra,
Madam,
give me thy bosom. What dost thou think of the 2 English brothers?
I think, madam, if they be as pleasant in taste as they are fair to the eye, they are a dish worth eating.
A cannibal, Dalibra? Wouldst eat men?
Why not, madam? Fine men cannot choose but be fine meat.
Aye, but they are a filling meat.
Why, so are most of your sweetmeats. If but a woman have a true appetite to them, they'll venture that.
I'd not be free of that company of venturers.
What though their voyages be somewhat dangerous? They are but short. They'll finish one of their voyages in 40 weeks, and within a month after, hoist sail and again another.
You sail clean from the compass, Dalibra. I only questioned you about the Christians' habits and behaviours.
That's like their conditions very civil and comely.
Aye, but they are strangers, Dalibra.
Strangers? I see no strangeness in them. They speak as well, or rather better, than our own countrymen, and I make no question can do as well if it came once to execution.
Their valour shown in the late overthrow of the Turks seals that for current.
And yet there are some about Sophy, your uncle, that look with a sullen brow upon them.
I hold them the more worthy for that, for envy and malice are always stabbing at the bosom of worth, when folly and cowardice walk up and down in regardless security. And here comes one of them.
Enter Calymath.
Health to your lordship, your ladyship.
In wine or beer, my lord?
In a full bosom of love, madam.
I pledge no love, healths, my lord, but from whence is't? If I like the party, my maid shall take it for me.
From my great brother warlike Halybeck, that makes your love the mark of all his hopes.
I'm sorry for him has missed his mark then. But how did the 2 English brothers bear themselves in the battle?
Marched with the rest of meaner action, like stars amongst a regiment of planets, shined with the rest, though much below the rest.
That's very strange. It came to us by letters the English brothers took more prisoners than any 4 commanders in the camp.
Indeed, they took some straggling runagates, poor heartless snakes that scarce had strength to crawl. But had you seen the valiant prince, my brother?
Do anything worth note, I should commend him for't. Is not the elder of the English Shirleys employed in embassage to Christendom?
Only for guide unto my warlike brother, but neither privy to the business, nor party joined in his commission.
Then fame's a liar.
Madam, my brother doth commend himself.
He could do little, and he could not commend himself, but who comes here?
Entered Robert Shirley. The younger brother of the Shirleys, madam.
Now, by my hopes, a goodly personage, composed of such a rich perfection as valour seems his servant. Aught with us?
Us as servants to their lords, subjects to kings, love mixed with duty worthless surely brings to your high excellence.
From whence and whom?
Worthy employment, having called my brother, your worthless servant, to the Christian states. Me has he made his trembling messenger to bring his dear commends unto your grace.
Which with no common favour we receive.
He kisses her hand.
Our hand for his tried service and your own, our love in fair requite all shall be shown.
Death to a Christian.
Nearer yet more nearer.
I cannot.
Why?
Your beauty shines too clear. Let cloud-born eagles tower above your seat. Suffice it me, I prosper by the heat.
The glorious son of Persia shall infuse his strength of heat into thy generous veins, and make thee like himself. In the meantime, look high, find feet, we'll set these steps to climb.
I am high enough. The Shirley's humble aim is not high majesty, but honored fame.
And that you both have won, and with the loss of your best bloods do your high deeds engross. In time's large volume, where to England's fame, ranked with best warriors, stands brave Shirley's name, methinks your country should grow great with pride to see such branches spring out of her sides. Your aged father should grow young again, to hear his sons live in the friendly pen of kind antiquity. All Persia sings, the English brothers are co-mates for kings.
You overprize us, madam, and the court, striving to right us, doth our worth much wrong. Alas, we are men, but meanly qualified to the rich worthies of our English soil, and should they hear what prodigal report gives out of us, they would condemn us for it. And though these parts would swear us innocent, our countrymen would count us insolent. For 'tis the nature of our English coast, whate'er we do for honor, not to boast.
You do your country credit.
Honored princess, the mighty Sophy, your renowned uncle, expects my service.
And he exits.
Fare thee well, good Shirley. Were thy religion, wherefore stays your honour?
My brother.
Is employed, pray be gone. Our thoughts are private and would talk alone.
Slighted 'tis well. What I intend I'll keep. Revenge may slumber, but shall never sleep.
Exit Calymath.
But he is a Christian, and his state too mean to keep even wing with us. Then die the thoughts of idle hope. Be thyself complete. Great in descent, be in thy thoughts as great.
What, dreaming, madam?
Yes, and my dream was of the wandering knight Aeneas.
Oh, the true Trojan.
Yet he played false play with the kind-hearted queen of Carthage.
And what did you dream of then?
A very profitable dream, which tells me that as strangers are amorous, so in the end they prove dangerous. And like the industrious bee, having sucked the juice of foreign gardens, they make wing to their own homes, and there make merry with the fraught of their adventures.
Troubled with the fear of suspicion, madam. And enter Calymath again.
'Tis a disease very incident to our sex. But who comes here, my old malady?
Madam, the Sophy, your renowned uncle, expects your company.
It may be so,
Presently, madam.
and that may be too.
What to my message?
Why, you may be gone.
This is no answer.
Why then look for none.
I hope for better.
This is all you get. I cannot come, excuse me, by your wit.
Cannot, nor will not.
Enter Robert Shirley.
Honorable princess, the mighty Sophy craves your company.
Instantly, Shirley, my huge honoured lord, if your all-lauded brother, Halybeck, would aught of love with us give it our maid, she knows our mind, and you may sooner haste. When emperors call, we cannot fly too fast.
And she exits, presumably with Robert.
Then, madam.
Nay, good my lord, if you would ought me delivered to my boy, I must observe my lady. And she exits.
If you would anything with me, Tell it to the post. I must go play again at shuttlecock.
Life, a disgrace, deluded to my teeth, lives my great brother in so mean respect, by Mortis Ali and our Persian gods, the Sophy shall have note on it, if he pause, to take revenge, no more I'll put the cause, to steel's arbitrament, revenge and death, like slander attend the sword of Calymath.
And presumably he exits too. End of scene. Well, that was kind of fun, to be honest. Just the sort of passing, like they're passing down. I'm assuming it's a ring of some sort or a jewel or something. And they seem to be passing it down like the hierarchy of sort of, she goes, hand it over to somebody else. And I do kind of like the niece, though the niece doesn't seem to get a name in this. I do like how she kind of, what's it called? Manages to brush off Calymath, like sort of my brother, and he's employed elsewhere. Go deal with him somewhere else, or something. And any thoughts in the room about this? Brian presumably has many thoughts.
Yeah, I really love that scene. I like the niece. It's a shame she doesn't get a name, but again, it's dancing on a fine line of not quite, again, and not being anywhere near as overtly misogynistic as these plays tend to be. I think it's very clever that so far the only misogyny we've had has come literally from the mouth of a woman, which almost makes it a bit more palatable to hear than, a woman saying, oh, it's the weakness of my sex, rather than a man saying, oh, you're being such a woman. I don't know, somehow it's a tiny bit more excusable. I love the pure filth between her and her maid at the start of that scene. That was lovely. Just the niece is a really likable character so far.
And she has a mind of her own as well. It's like sort of, wouldst thou eat men? Well, fine men, and so on and so forth. And it's just, I don't know, it's
good men equals good food, right?
Yeah.
So now we have us kind of the beginnings of a love plot to add to the political intrigue. I don't know if the niece is in any way, but in the succession line for the Persian Sophy, whether he doesn't have a son or a daughter, so his brother's daughter is the only heir. But she's very close to the Sophy, and she basically has this like flaming hots for Sir Robert.
Yeah, because he's much more polite than everybody else. It's like,
and he's just like, oh, I'm so unworthy even to get close to you. That could actually be, that exchange could actually, you could play that with a lot of erotic tension in it. That might be really interesting on stage. Like, oh, you're like the sun, like, I can't get too close to you. And she's like, no, it's okay, come on.
Yeah, there is that sort of element of, but I do like how the sort of thing is basically like, the nurse slash maid. I don't know. She seems to be the nurse character in this. Dalibra goes, they're much more civilized anyway than our own countrymen, which is a bit problematic, obviously, on some level. For like Turks, Englishmen, Turks, so on and so forth. But I mean, the way this play does it is quite funny. And it's kind of established in the previous scenes that Calymath already doesn't like Christians. Now we're just giving him another reason not to like them. Yeah. Briony.
I think structurally the scene was really well placed as well to contrast with everything else that we've had so far in this play, and what Elizabeth was saying about the hypermasculinity that we get with wars and this kind of material. It just made it that much nicer that she wasn't just stiff and formal. She was playful. There was some jokes, like I say, there was some pure filth in there as well, like she's really likes this guy, and it just, it was just a nice kind of relief that cut through the rest of it.
Well, I guess it's basically also kind of building on a different kind of, like, this is a different war that's going to be fought behind the scenes of the war that we really sort of dealt with earlier, and sort of cause it basically encouraging Calymath to plot revenge. This can't possibly go wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah. Any other thoughts before we continue? Or not? Elizabeth has.
I just have this sense of like Calymath left on stage at the end of scene 4.
Mhm.
At the end of scene, was that scene 3?
Scene 3.
Mhm.
Brandishing his sword, talking about his revenge. I think he protests too much. He talks a good talk, but we haven't seen much action from him. And I love the way the niece kept cutting him off. Every time he was like, yes, my brother. And she's like, yeah, whatever. You know, I'm not interested. I like that. And again, it's this sense of like this cheeky, sort of audacious mood in the play.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a cheeky, tongue-in-cheek tone that it has, which I don't think we've seen in any of the Turkish plays before.
Yeah, it seems more like sort of not Battle of Alcazar, but like sort of like moving on a parody almost level, but it's not quite. It's kind of, I don't know. Yeah, it's meant to be based on true things. So I don't know if the point, because the Robert has said that they're not really well respected in England or anything, or they don't own. They're not noblemen in England, to my understanding of it. Maybe it is that trope of, well, we went abroad to make our fortune and this is where we ended up, kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, and it couldn't be more different from Four Apprentices.
Yeah, I thought they were related, but apparently not. No, I have been proven wrong.
Yeah, it's a very different tone.
Yeah. Yep. And well, based on what I see in the next scene, we're going to add more sort of royals and emperors to the works. Any more thoughts on scene 3 before we move on? Okay. Scene 4, enter a chorus.
Time that upon his restless wing conveys hours, days, and years, we must entreat you think. By this hath borne our worthy traveller towards Christendom as far as Russia in his affairs. With him's gone Halybeck, who seems with friendly steps to tread with him, but in his heart lurks envy like a snake, who hurts them sleeping whom he fears awake. Our story then so large we cannot give, all things in acts we should entreat them live, by apprehension in your judging eyes, only for taste before their embassy, and time of hearing with the emperor. Great Hally traitorously suggests against him his low birth, base manners and defects, which being fastened in their credulous ears, how he was welcomed by the show appears.
Enter in state the Emperor of Russia with 3 or 4 lords to him, Sir Anthony and Halybeck. Sir Anthony, offering to kiss his hand, is disgraced, and Halybeck accepted, the Emperor disposing their affairs to the council. Exit the Emperor, and Sir Anthony, at the going out of the rest, speaks.
Stay and resolve you, councillors of state. What cause neglects, or what offence of ours makes this disgrace wear such a public habit?
Surely thyself that art a fugitive, a Christian spy, a pirate and a thief.
Oh, Halybeck, whom my great master made co-mate with me.
As candles lighted to burn out themselves, he gave thee grace as parent to disgrace. His wisdom there held thee unfit for life, yet sent thee thither near thy Christian floor, that failing there, thy shame should might be the more.
Oh, treason, when thou bearest the highest wing, thy tongue seems oily with a venomous sting. I stand not, lords, to purge his evidence, nor to accuse his slander. These blushless papers which his imperial master made to me, or quit me, or condemn me, if I look red, 'tis my heart's die with anger, not with dread.
Your letters will advise on. In the meantime, we'll take you to our charges prisoner. If we find your cause and without rust, such shall your sentence be upright and just.
Howe'er come death, 'tis innocence' delight. Though the world spot her, yet her face is white.
And exit Sir Anthony. Thus, by your information, have we done our justice on that stranger gentleman. Your princely self we do entreat to feast, till leisure can conclude your business.
Which in our master's name we thank you for. Now droops the Christian's honour ne'er to rise, and in his fall envy hath washed her eyes.
And he exits. I'm just wondering if we should run this scene into the next one. Yeah, that works. Okay, yeah. Let's run it into the next one because they're both quite short. So yeah, we can pause at the end of scene 5. Enter the chorus.
Sir Anthony Shirley was thus imprisoned, and Cushion Halybeck in royal sword had entertainment with the Russian, during which time his counsel with advice had read his letter by the Persian sent, suspected by the commendation given of his approved worth in war and peace, and his authority assigned to them, that all suggestions from the other's tongue were envy's bolts, that spares not whom to wrong, yet to make strong their censure they straight sent for the English agent and for English merchants, where after the question of his life and birth, they found him sprung from honourable stock, and that his country hopes in time to come to see him great, though envied of some. They also so resolved their master, how he left the court, to please your eyes, we in this show report.
Show of something that we do not have recorded.
Thus graced by the Muscovian emperor, envy grew still more rank in Halley's heart, yet both dispatched on their designs in hand. Time now makes us short their way, and they at Rome in state are brought before his holiness, where what succeeded for the former grudge, give you us leave to show, take leave to judge.
And another show. And then enter the Pope and his cardinals.
With the greatest pomp, magnificence, and state, to the adoration of all dazzled eyes, we do intend the ambassadors, once come, shall have a hearing, feasting, and their welcome. Descend, O brotherhood of cardinals, and all the holy orders that attend us, and let your diligence approve your care to bring them to our honored presence in Peter's chair.
Your holiness shall
shall
have
your
your
will
will
obeyed.
obeyed.
If to the advancement of God, church, and saints the tenor of their embassage appears, they shall have all our fervent prayers and tears.
Peace to the Father of our Mother Church, the stair of men's salvations, and the key that binds or looseth our transgressions.
The virtue of your embassy, go on.
These papers be the precepts taught my tongue, the force of whose inscription runneth thus, that Christian princes would lend level strength to curb the insulting pride of paganism, and you, the mouth of heaven, advertise them, to join their bodies to an able arm, that as above stern vengeance for heaven's foes, so men, heaven's friends, should seek their overthrows.
Ascend, my son, the furtherance of this right commands our conscience, is our soul's delight.
Down for thy pride, and for the wrong thou didst me. This place admits not thy unhallowed feet, and heart being treasonous fondly climb unto it.
Even step by step, whereas this business tends, my place admit me, and my feet ascends.
But Phaeton for climbing had a fall, and so shalt thou damnation prove withal.
Refrain, therefore, and whate'er you are, if you were kings, as but kings' ministers, thinking by privilege of your affairs, your outrage hath a freedom. You are deceived, for as unchecked the winds command the seas, the best shall take our mightiness, this shall shake our mightiness displeased.
Pardon, dread father, that my heat of blood took from me the remembrance of the place, wherein all knees should stoop, no hand offend, and this repentance for remission plead. Rashness doth make the obedient be deceived. Nor wast so much my wrongs in Russia, wherein his slander made me prisoner. Remember me to take revenge on him, as that his pagan feet should dare to climb, where none but Christians' knees should, and then mine much less admit him have the upper way, from men whose souls fear them who we obey.
Christian thy name, that in this register to honor thee we may remember it.
Surely a Christian and a gentleman, a pilgrim soldier and an Englishman.
For all these styles we love and honor thee, and in thy affairs will so effectually deal for thee in our name to Christian princes, they shall so honor thee that thou shalt back with powers so strong, whose sight makes Turkey shake.
Heaven shall gain souls thereby, religion glory.
First to Saint Angelo, thus hand in hand, then council to make Christian Turkish land.
And they exit. This is an interesting scene, as is the previous one, obviously, because like basically these two kind of like one is the resolution of the previous one. So yay, politics, friends in high places.
Politics and religion, yikes.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting, sort of, because this is 16. Well, this is after Queen Elizabeth's death, if I'm not mistaken.
Is this supposed to be taking place then?
I
Or
don't
is
know, but like, sort of, I'm just intrigued by the fact that a Pope appears in it, and he's like sort of bowing to the Pope and all that stuff, and kneeling and all. Which, I mean, presumably Queen Elizabeth would not have accepted because of the whole, all those, her restoration, post-restoration stuff, or Reformation, sorry, not restoration.
Yeah.
But if this is in James's reign, then where's a historian when I need them? Alan and Briony, and then
I suspect that this may be based on a memoir from a considerably earlier period. It would actually fit if it was anything up to a century earlier.
Yeah.
Because there were effectively quite good relations between the Elizabethan court and the Constantinople, Istanbul court.
Yeah.
Because you're at the time of Solomon the Magnificent.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a feeling that this may actually be a bit of a historical anomaly, and it's picking up on events maybe early 16th century rather than late 16th.
Yeah, probably. Also because there was that line about, yes, tell us your name so we can put it in this register and remember it. So maybe there was like a sort of historical document. Brian, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I was just slightly confused by the action in those last two scenes and wanting to clarify that I've grasped it correctly. So Sir Anthony's worked out now that everybody except Sophy kind of hates him and has been double-crossed, and now he's telling on the Pope. Is that about right?
He's basically sort of gone, well, as far as I can tell, he's gone to the Pope for arbitration to sort of prove that he's not pirate, thief, and all those things that Halybeck accused him of, as far as I can tell. Alan?
The way it came across to me was more along the lines of Halybeck has basically grassed him up to the authorities in Moscow, and had him at least detained. He then, with one mighty bound, escapes, and their next stop is Rome on the rolling mission, where Shirley has got more of an in because of his Western Christianity, rather than these dreadful people from Eastern Europe.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Or contiguous parts. I think we're probably back into English proto-nationalism again as well.
Yeah, because they're now on about converting them all, which hasn't really been something we've been forcing down their throats up until now, is it?
No.
This play.
Yeah, also there's that line. Yeah, I think the way he supposedly gets out of it is by, there's an English agent who, and English merchants who basically resolve the whole sort of issue in Moscow, and then sort of, in Russia. which basically allows them to then proceed to Rome, because that's where they sort of were going to resolve the Persian Sophie's issues. I mean, sort of to offer an alliance, basically, as far as I can understand. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, the Muscovy Company, I think, did turn up in one of the parallel series, the Star Chamber readings that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the Russia Company.
Earlier, so slightly earlier in Elizabeth's reign.
Yeah, definitely. You can see those on YouTube. If you type in Star Chamber or Court of Star Chamber.
Star Chamber cases.
Yes. It's the Russia Company against, I can't remember what.
Gregory.
Gregory. Yeah. So, yeah. But I don't know, this scene is just kind of interesting. I mean, he goes to the Pope for not so much money, but for soldiers, I'm assuming.
Endorsement.
Yeah, a bit of both. Yeah. Also, I do like how you've got like the betrayal on both sides of the sort of, you've got Robert basically sort of being hated on by Calymath, who is the brother to Halybeck, and Halybeck sort of plotting against Sir Anthony and failing, because of course he has to fail for the story to go on as well. And any other thoughts before we move on to the last two scenes? I think we will run together because possibly they go together. I'm not entirely sure. We'll find out in a minute, I guess. Any thoughts? Elizabeth looks very pensive, but has no thoughts.
I'm not muted. I was just thinking of what Briony was saying about how well Briony kind of summed up what had happened in the last two scenes. I was thinking about time and place. And I'm a little bit lost in terms of where we are. I know that we were with the Pope, and so I assumed that we were in some sort of Popish salon, but just in terms of where we are is a bit awkward because we're talking about Russians, we're talking about Christians, we're talking about Englishmen, and now we've got the Sophy, and then we've got the Persians, and we've got the Turkish, and I was just thinking, where are we?
Well, exactly. It's kind of like if you remember Sir Guy of Warwick, or whatever that play was called, where we kind of traveled from Jerusalem to England and back very quickly, and also but it was kind of you had sort of elements of time and stuff that were not consistent. It would be interesting. I don't know if the sort of knowing where or when we are in terms of history is important, but it might be it might be useful for if you're going to produce the play as well. But I don't know if it's interesting to an audience. I guess for costuming it would be important, sort of knowing what's going on generally. I don't know. That's just me sort of vamping. Please leap in. And also, I don't know how many actors they had for this, so it would have been very interesting. Also, just because, to make Christian Turkish land, that's not problematic nowadays at all. I guess back then it would have been sort of a yay, the Christians are winning. Now it might have, nowadays if you play.
Yikes now.
Yeah. I imagine, I don't know. It depends where you perform it, of course, or when. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Okay. Scene 6, enter the chorus again to sort of cover the gap between time and place.
Our travellers here is feasted, banquets done, and he with letters is dispatched from Rome unto the states of Venice. Suppose him there, where we will leave him, and entreat your thoughts to think their eyes transported, and they see Sir Thomas Shirley's following misery from England by desire to see his brother, with some few ships well manned, well provided, suppose him now at sea, where with cross winds, unequal to his merits and his hopes, he long remained, at last in Italy, in the great Duke of Florence's court he arrived, feasted and honoured, from thence being furnished with all things fitting for prosperous voyage, is come unto the Straits of Gibraltar, then to Leghorn, then to the Dukes of Tuscan, where divers merchants did corrupt his men against his cause, and made them mutinous, which to appease they put to seas again. And being in the sight of the Isle of Sicily, 2 of his ships forsook him, and he with one is come to Leo, in the Turks' domain.
The chamber is shut off.
This latter, warning me from speech, doth break. Suppose him landed here himself to speak.
And exit the chorus. Enter Sir Thomas Shirley, who's with sailors and followers.
Who's Sir Thomas?
Welcome ashore, ashore, welcome ashore. Forget the past adventures, think that the seas played with us, but as great men do a land, hurled us now up then down, had room to toss, and fed their pleasures through to others' loss. Believe that all misfortunes are like thirst, that makes your drink taste sweeter when it comes. For me, as you are, so am I, a little pile of earth slimed earth, and have no greater style than you have, but a man. And if your blood have the same heat as mine, we'll never back unto our mother country, but our stream shall lose his vital way, or be a theme, unto our sanguine brothers, how to raise paeans of triumph in our virtues' praise. Or else even here, this be our fatal lot, we'll die unknown, so buried and forgot.
While we have life even against this rocky town, we'll find us graves in stones, or beat it down.
You're our general, and with you will stand, who fear not sea storms, shrink not being a land.
I thank you all. Be but your action thus. Men shall not fight us, nor this lusty town, built upon stony hills to outface the clouds, be able to amaze us. But the men that keep those walls shall perish, though not then. Then, Master Gunner, instead of other parley, go let a piece of ordnance summon them.
I go. And he exits. Sir Thomas, I believe you are next.
I think Elizabeth might be frozen.
Oh no. No. Because we didn't have enough problems with the casting. Oh no.
Oh no.
It's like, sorry, I'm just going to check this. Okay. Briony, can you read Sir Thomas just temporarily? Your own brother, basically.
Yeah, which, oh no, she disappeared. Which line are we at?
The rest make good this ground.
Bottom of 25.
Helpfully, I'm not using page numbers. How I got it. Sorry. The rest make good this ground, while that myself at their wall's side will question them to yield. Mercy, we'll offer, which if they deny,
Chamber shut off.
in the same hour they do resist, they die. This tongue proclaims to them, we are hither come, with soldiers' hands that bring destruction. To them and their fenced town, if they hold out, ourself will take their answer, if it be proud. The spoil is yours, the earth for them a shroud. Arm then as I do.
'Tis for hope of wealth.
And pagans' glories to enrich us with.
At my return we'll fight to purchase gold, or take't with ease which hope makes cowards bold.
But who's too venturous? Generals should know, instead of gold may meet his overthrow. For tell me, sailors and my fellow mates, what gain may be expected from this town that we should venture for? Nay, what from him? We term our general worth our or rule more than we him enabled in ourselves.
Why speaks the captain thus?
That mischief should be shunned ere they begun, and we ourselves avoid danger ere undone. For but bethink yourselves, in all our voyage, what prosperous hour hath given encouragement to make our hope look cheerful? What have we had but sickness, sea storms, and contrarious winds? And what can we expect here, being landed, should but the hardy enemy come and descend, but wretched slavery, and at last our end?
But how can we prevent it being here and to perform this voyage bound with him?
Why, leave him here and take ourselves to sea, and every man be captain of himself. Where what pillage we can make our prey, 'twill be our own, and we to none obey.
And in leaps a servant from nowhere.
A generous man, so big of bone and yet so base of mind, to counsel against him so good then. What though our fortune with ungentle hand hath crossed his enterprise and actions, canst then to him whose bounty gave thee means, preferment, grace beyond thy merit's worth, poison thyself and make thy tongue a sting against his life that gives thy fortune's wing?
What's done is past. Times were fortunes to come, and to repay, sometimes to speak, is dumb. Then speaks my art, if that my motion pleased. Hoist sails, my master, and again to seize.
A captain.
Say whether you fly feeble mates in streams, and I am come to have you bring relief unto our general that's oppressed by Turks.
To sea.
To see for what? And leave our general in distress, a land, the Turks that at my summons gave their oaths to hold an hour's parley, break their word. Come valiantly upon him, soldier-like, he hath resisted till his fastened hilt was bladeless in his hand. Nothing now rests but present rescue or present death.
Death unto him that seeks it we will fly, for certain safeguard, wise security. Seek shelter ere the storm can trouble. To see my mates, then in you must with us. Denial serves not, nor resistance neither. They are best in health, can set them to the weather, and so to sea.
To sea!
To sea.
Base villains, fates, unpartial fates to spin their lives this length, who leave their master and should be his strength.
Enter Sir Thomas Shirley, now back to Elizabeth, who had jumped out. Technical problem.
Friends, soldiers, sailors, a rescue, or I'm taken prisoner.
Bootless you call, sir, their unconstant faith is fled from you.
Ha!
A noise within.
Hark, they weigh anchor, get your ships to sea, and leave you to men's tyranny a land. They in one knot are knit, and only I stay here as you, now ere to live or die.
I thank thee, less I cannot give thee. Fate, do thy worst, my courage takes no flight, but here keeps court, though my cross-destines fight.
Enter 4 Turks.
Follow!
A Christian!
Though weaponless I am left, with these I'll fight.
In what I may, I'll shew my best of might.
And here they fight. Sir Thomas, being weaponless, defends himself with stones. At last, being pressed with multitudes, his servant flies, and he's taken.
So bear him prisoner to Constantinople, to be examined of the emperor.
Even where you will, if to my overthrow, my mind is high, lie my head ne'er so low.
And enter the servant again.
I will not leave you, master, since I have escaped from their surprisal, but with my best endeavour will strive to see what shall become of you. If worse than I could wish, I'll sorrow for't. If in my means to help, I'll comfort it.
They exit. Well, that was an interesting scene. Now we're back fighting against not against the Venetians or with the Venetians. I lost track of who we were fighting. Yeah, and now Sir Thomas is a prisoner, which is very sad indeed. Any thoughts, Alan?
Yeah, earlier on, the geography definitely went a bit peculiar, because they get to Italy and then they go back to the Straits of Gibraltar before heading on to the Sicily. The sat-nav was obviously playing the same sort of silly games that Elizabeth's internet was.
Definitely. Yeah, I like how there is that moment of like they kind of consult with the crew to see if they're going to keep fighting. Even sort of the only person who's willing to stick up for Thomas is his servant, doesn't he?
Well, and the gunner.
Yeah, and the gunner. Yeah. Any other thoughts before? I think I'd said we'd run these together, but then we kind of didn't, so it's fine. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Although I do like the servant's line. What was it? Degenerate man, so big of bone yet so base of mind. I like how the expectation is kind of like big bone, strong person has to not be a coward. Yeah, hopefully. Anyway, I'll stop vamping now and move on to scene 7. Alarum enter Robert and other Persians with victories.
My thanks to heaven that overlooked this day and thus hath aided with an host divine the feeble remnants of us, thy heralds, that shall proclaim thy name throughout the world, and wear this badge of courage on our breasts, joined with a motto calling on thy name. This shall redouble valor when it faints. This says our blood can be no better shed than in the blood's behalf that dyed this red. Now, let's recount our victory today. What prisoners here have we taken?
Between 30 and 40 of their chief commanders.
We are now here the Persian substitute and cannot use our Christian clemency to spare a life. Off with all their heads. Speak, do ye renounce your prophet Muhammad, bow to the deity that we adore, or die for the refusal?
For Mahomet we die.
Join Mortis Ali then with Mahomet that slew your prophet Tamer and Usman, and on a snowy camel went to heaven, and yet you shall find grace in Persia.
For Mahomet, none but Mahomet.
To death with them, the rest shall follow.
Enter a Christian in Turk's habit as a prisoner.
Off with his head too, will have no ransom but conversion.
I have somewhat to deliver ere I die.
Be thou a convertite, we'll hear thee, not else.
Then I must be silent. I'll choose to die. Before the faith I do profess, deny.
Off with his head then.
Nay, I am not as I seem.
Thou seemest a Turk.
Yet am a Christian.
The more thy crime, against Christians thou hast been a foe today. How comes it else thou art our prisoner?
If I be blameful found, then let me die. First peruse this.
Shows his arm, presumably a tattoo or something.
I am prisoner in Constantinople. Use your best relief, Thomas Shirley. Oh heavens! Although this news be bitter in itself, I cannot but applaud this happy knowledge. 10,000 heads shall not, 10,000 heads now shall not buy this head. Thou art my best friend's equal for this deed. Oh, that the fortune of 10 doubtful days were to begin their pale encountering close, so that my brother stood in armor here to join with me. But can ye help my understanding with any further notice?
Not any. Letters had I none, but short commends, whilst his hand writ down this brief tenor. So straight is his converse with Christians. For him and you this have I undertook. First I was forced your most willing, unwilling foe, so to become your willing prisoner.
I thank ye, and I shall remember ye. How many of their commanders are yet living?
30, my lord.
Still let them live. Those 30 shall buy my brother's life, and shall think them happily bestowed. I'll send an embassy to offer it. But pray ye be sparing in your speech, for if by any intelligence he be known my brother, he's sure to die. So heaven hath aided me thrice against these Turks. They that would hate the man that loveth me, and to my name they add Shirley the Great. Though my humility, I vow by heaven, doth not affect that over dignity. But if they do refuse this proffered gift, Shirley shall wish to be no other great than to be great in their great overthrow. If that he die within their captive thrall, 10,000 Turks shall mourn his funeral.
And they exit, thus endeth scene 7. Well, that took a turn just when we were saying, this is perfectly diplomatic, beautifully written. And it's like, well, yeah, now they're going to die on the second part, which made me think of, yes, I know I mentioned Pirates of the Caribbean at the beginning of the session, but it made me think of the whole, do you join Davy Jones's crew or not? Elizabeth, you had thoughts.
I was just laughing so much at the whole Davy Jones locker, and I just thought that is the most fitting and strange analogy for what's going on in this scene. I really like the kind of concept of like you have to convert or die, because that's I feel like the purest test of your faith kind of thing. So I like that being there, and the way they're just beheading them on stage just immediately. It's like, behead him now. It's like, no, wait a second, I'm a Christian. And I like that the Shirley is written on his arm, and I was wondering if it was like a tattoo with the tattoos, or it was just a handwritten. I kind of feel like, what kind of ink would they have used that would have stayed on there?
I have many questions about that. I just imagined it was sort of like, message in a bottle, but like obviously not a message in a bottle, but on a person. I don't know, maybe a henna tattoo would have stayed. Like they can be quite durable, but I don't know. Anyway, I did just like, please don't kill me, I have a tattoo. Yeah. Or I have a message for you, but he doesn't even ask if Robert is the brother. He just kind of goes, I have a message for you before you kill me. So I'm assuming that by this point he's kind of he's known to be Robert, surely by this point. And I like how they have the Persian sort of doing a countdown. Well, we had 14, now we have 30. Not weird at all. Any thoughts, since we're like sort of rounding up the session as well, because we do have sort of, Lynn.
Yeah, I feel like the pace has changed from the beginning, which was actually fairly the beginning of the play was fairly uneventful, very ceremonious. This is how we fight. Oh, we're so impressive. This is how we fight. Oh, we're so impressive. We're so impressed with each other. Not a lot actually happens in that first scene. And in scene whatever it was, 6, the middle brother of the Shirleys shows up with a crew on a ship from England. It's like, we're going to take this town. Yeah, we are. And the minute his back is turned, they're like, nah, we're not gonna. So the middle brother shows up out of nowhere. His crew on the ship that he brought turns on him and abandons him. And then he gets captured. Like, all of that happens in one scene. And then in the next scene, his brother finds out and is going to ransom him. It's just like, oh, things are happening really fast right now.
Yeah, but that's kind of why we have the sort of chorus to bridge the gap, so to speak, between places. But then the chorus disappears between scene 6 and scene 7, which is quite interesting. Presumably the chorus is actually playing either Robert or one of the others, or I don't know, maybe they were just giving him a break. Yeah, this play is doing so many weird things at the same time. Any sorry, Elizabeth, yeah, didn't see your hand.
I was just thinking, like, it's such a change of pace from Fulgens and Lucrece. Like, it's about as far from Fulgens and Lucrece as you possibly get.
Well, I mean, yes. In a word, yes. For context, we're recording this like a few days after we recorded the second look of Fulgens and Lucrece, which was very long. Well, not long, but I mean, it has a lot of speechifying, whereas this one is very much like sort of action, then speech, then action, then speech. Yeah. And we've only had, well, if we want to do like a head count, pun not intended, it's sort of, we have various nationalities sort of, okay, probably misrepresented, but anyway, and we have two ladies thus far who have disappeared for like 2 scenes, or I've lost track of how many scenes. They basically appeared for only one scene, but their sort of their contribution to the action is basically sort of like everything is going wrong. But because I mean, for the Christian sort of, it's like how much crap can we put them in before they get out of it? Kind of. Alan.
In some ways, this is reminding me of sort of action movies. There's just about enough text to bridge the gaps between the fighty sequences.
Definitely.
I suspect that an awful lot of this would have been played for spectacle rather than anything else, which is one of the reasons why the chorus, who actually I do quite enjoy those bits because it is giving the story.
Yeah.
You know, whereas a lot of the dialogue in between is rather dense. But I suspect that an awful lot of this was keeping the people happy with, oh, well, let's have more fighty action.
Yeah. Lynn, sorry.
Yeah, we haven't talked about this before, but I think spectacle is definitely a big part of what's going on here. You have, as Alan was saying, lots of fighty, and sound effects, firearms going off, and also we have scenes set in 2 different exotic courts, Persia and Turkey, or the Ottoman court, and then we have an allegorical character, Fame, who's like in the chorus appears like Fame, because we all know what Fame dressed like a 90s teenager from that movie. I don't know, but because the early modern stage had not a lot in terms of scenery, costume was a really important visual element. So you've got 2 different sets of exotic costumes plus an allegorical character. So yeah, the spectacle, I think, a big part of how this was originally staged and how the writers envisioned it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what I find interesting is that, like, okay, obviously we've been talking a lot about the Turkish plays, like sort of stuff that we've read, like Solomon and Preston, characters die within the first 2 scenes or something. You start to count the bodies piling up. Whereas with this, it seems more like, because they also made reference to Dido and Aeneas, which made me think of like sort of, these guys have probably seen Marlowe. Maybe he's even, dined with them or something. I don't know. Maybe they've had chats or whatever. And it reads more like that type of era, like sort of, Spanish, well, not Spanish tragedy. Spanish tragedy was very bloody and stuff, but it reads more like sort of Marlowe type stuff. I don't know, like he was more interested in plot also, in a way, and and verbiage rather than actual action. Stuff like Tamerlane, which we've read, I think, though I wasn't there. And then stuff like Battle of Alcazar, that one. It's like the politics as well as the actual fiction parts. then there's stuff like Captain Stokely, which is kind of completely out there. But that did have that element of, we have a romance thread going through it, in just, for a change of pace, in case you get bored with all the fighting. So this play feels like it's doing a lot of stuff. And any other thoughts? I can see complaints in the chat about Troy again. But yeah, they had to definitely I mean, Troy was kind of, Troy Avant and all that stuff. That actually comes after this, because if I remember correctly, the metal plays, or the Age plays, Age of Gold and Iron and all those things, actually come slightly after, or they're concurrent, I think. Concurrent, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. Elizabeth is looking at me peculiarly, or is that just because you've gone sideways?
But Dido and Aeneas was not the Marlowe's Dido, Queen of Carthage, was considerably before this. So I really think the Troy cycle was at least in the consciousness of educated people. It was, I think really embedded in this culture in a way that I think would surprise a lot of people now.
Yeah, probably. But also they seem to have because these writers, playwrights, of the specific play seem to be very sort of keeping it light as well. Like sort of, they start with the sort of politeness and the spectacle and all that. And now we're sort of in the realm of we're going to kill each other if we're not careful, kind of thing. And yeah, any other final thoughts before we wrap up the session?
I do hope the little love plot with the Sophie's niece comes to something and isn't just like a throwaway, because I did so enjoy that sequence.
I'm pretty sure it's more, I mean, it might be a plot device to sort of, do stuff, but then I think by the point they reappear, they might, I'm assuming they reappear because there's a niece for tomorrow as well. Tomorrow being the next video that you will watch, not like for people who are watching this. So that will be interesting to see if it gets played out fully. Briony's looking very pensive over there. Any thoughts?
I agreed with what Lynn said about how the pace changed there at the end. It lost me a little bit at the end, and I've been really enjoying it. So I'm just kind of holding my breath a bit to see how the second half continues.
I think it's kind of that element of what's called it's the hypermasculinity we were talking about earlier, where it's kind of we're back to that, and then part two. Well, presumably this is where you would put an interval. I don't know, maybe you put it earlier, but it seems like a good place to stop anyhow. So on that note, if there are no other thoughts, I would like to thank all the wonderful readers for today. And I can see you looking at me for like, what quote is he going to use before I forget? So, fine men cannot choose but be fine meat.